what I say is make sure that you have a plan and you go into stages, So like, I think I used S2A modular before, which I've been raising capital for a couple of years. That's one of my own personal projects. I'm an officer there. I'm a chief revenue officer there.
What would you say is the number one secret that you're learning right now to building systems in this kind of this digital, world that we're in?
Yeah, I would say, building systems is sort of a, big, deep hole, if you will, if you're not careful. So what I always say is I'm a big person that with my time or the systems building, I do chunking. I break things down into small bites and pieces. And I say, you know what? Let's not wait for perfection until we get out of the gate, which too many entrepreneurial companies and businesses do. And so what I say is make sure that you have a plan and you go into stages, So like, I think I used S2A modular before, which I've been raising capital for a couple of years. That's one of my own personal projects. I'm an officer there. I'm a chief revenue officer there. And so we started off raising capital 20 million for it's a modular factory that we raised capital for. And it was no different than a real estate portfolio. We raised 20 million for a location, raised 20 million for another location. And that's how it started. Well, what's nice is with that effort, since then, we've raised 70 million retail, right? Those are all accredited investors. But along the way, we kept our eyes wide open and we realized that, wait a minute, we've got SoftBank and all these big hedge funds coming at us and going, we want in, but we weren't properly structured because we structured differently for smaller raises, right? So then we were like, had an aha moment that said, you know what? The reason I came on for this is I wanted to see something go from startup to IPO. And that's a long journey typically, right? Depending on the company, unless you get a magic unicorn in your belt and, it happens a lot faster. So with us, it was interesting because while we're raising the 20 million and these big companies are coming in, family offices, private equity, I'm like, you know what? We got together and we said, we need to restructure things so that we can turn this into an optimal investment for private equity down the road, for people that want to put in 100 million, 200 million, right? The bigger checks, not the 200,000 minimum. So we started prepping that about a year and a half ago, and it took us about a year to reorganize everything, to roll up the company. You have accounting and things like that you have to do, but we caught it early enough in the venture that it was easier than if we waited, and it was easier if we tried to do it in the beginning because we couldn't afford to do it in the beginning, right? It was just economics.
Okay, so it sounds like I want to catch this Peter here, right? You're thinking about, hey, how are we going to build this thing for the 10x, 100x, if and even when it comes? We got to make sure that we're starting with the end in mind, in the sense. And what is that end? Well, that vision is to be much larger checks.
Yes.
You want an opportunity to serve and make a bigger impact. And you're going, look, if we let this train just keep going full steam ahead, it could be a train wreck down the road, and we don't want that to happen. Is that a fair summary so far, Dean?
Yes, that is exactly. And so what's interesting is, as of about, less than 4 months ago, we put this new offer of 450 million on the street, and we kept some retail in there to let the investors that were really fans of ours, we lowered the minimum to allow them to come in. A lot of people, we had collected over 300,000 people that had said, hey, I want to invest. I love this position, but they couldn't invest. Either they weren't accredited or they didn't have the minimum 200,000. So then we left a little space for them, and we've collected millions in that period from them. But now we have over 3 billion in the pipeline of institutional in that 4-month period. And we've signed LOIs of over 200 million. So just think of that statement. We didn't plan to do this, but we kept our eyes open. We listened to the people, we listened to the data, and then we built systems to be able to scale as we were. I always say we're building a plane in flight. So you're flying the plane, but you're still working on the engine, you know, at the same time.
So I say it sounds like part of this as well is not having to have it perfect, right? It's having
Now, death by perfection is one of the biggest sins in business. So
not having to be perfect. I mean, in other words, have a vision, have an instinct to take action, have a plan. Let's say don't need planning, right? For every hour of planning, you can save 10 hours of work, right? So make sure you have the plan, make sure you have the vision, but then take action, realizing that, you know, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be some things that are going to come up, but that's part of building out the system. Is that a fair summary so far, Dean?
that's very fair. Now, we did start with a plan, you know, a plan and a structure. We talked about that last time. So you still want to have your original plan, but you don't want to be locked in and closed-minded where you don't adjust that plan along the way.